When I was a kid, I used to love Saturdays because I get to sit down in front of the TV with a big old bowl of cereal and watch the Looney Tunes. Anybody remember that? And there's this one particular cartoon that would come on where this fox is running through and one of the dogs is chasing him and he goes to the other dog and he goes, "Which way did he go, George? Which way did he go?" I'm curious, how many of you felt that way when you signed up to be a Toastmaster? You just logged into Toastmasters.org and went, "Which way do I go, George? Which way do I go?" Well, I'm here today to help you figure out which way to go. There'll be three major steps that we'll be looking at today. And if you happen to have your laptops handy, you can walk along with me to go ahead and dip your toes in the waters while we go through this presentation. The first step will be simply logging in. The second step will be identifying your path. And the third step will be all the things that encompass getting through a base camp lesson curriculum. So I will take a moment here and get my screen shared together. And let me optimize it for video sharing so we don't have all of those funny things. All right, as everyone can see, you should be able to see my screen. At the top, you can see that I am at toastmasters.org. If you are ever confused, I know we have two sets of Toastmasters things that we get into each week. One is at toastmasters.org, which is the Toastmasters International website that holds our curriculum, also known as our pathways. And then the second is our HP Houston Toastmasters website, which is where we sign up for our roles, for our weekly meetings and catch up on other things that are going on in our club. So for today we're focusing strictly on toastmasters.org, the international website that has all the resources that we need to be thriving and growing Toastmasters members and Toastmasters Club. So as you can see here, I'm already logged in. If you are a new member, you should have received an email that gave you access and credentials to be able to get into the website. So when you go into the toastmasters.org, you will log in using that credential. And your first page that you'll see will look something like this. At the top, it'll have your name, welcome. In this case, my name's Catherine, so it says welcome, Catherine. And it would have your name there as well. You'll have some options here. Now, if this is your very first time, your first page may look a little bit different. Also, if you're not an officer, there may be some tweaky things going on as well, but this is the basicness of what you should see on your Toastmasters login. When you get there, you can come to this space here and click My Home. And if technology is working with us, you're going to see what that looks like here in a second. All right. And so as you see, it's reminding us it's time to renew our membership. We can do our dues online as well, but we're not talking about that today. We are talking about base camp and pathways. So as we move into this section of it, because I am already in base camp, and base camp is the formula, what is it called? It's the website that manages our curriculum, the pathway. So you'll hear those terms mentioned interchangeably. So if you hear base camp or you hear pathways or you hear paths, we're typically talking about the same thing. As you go in, if you are already a member, you will see you can go to your base camp. That means you are already a member and you've already selected your path. If you are not, if you're a new member and you have not selected your path, what you might see is something that says choose my path. Now I'm just going to go to that by clicking on these buttons, going to education programs and then going to pathways. And then there's a space where I can choose a path if I have not already, or if I'm working on a path and it's maybe not doing it for me and I want to choose another path. To choose your first path is free with your membership. Any additional paths are $20 along the way. As you can see, there are 6 paths to choose from. There will be 2 options to be able to choose a path. You can go in and choose one of the 6. The 6 are dynamic leadership, engaging humor, motivational strategies, persuasive influence, presentation mastery, and visionary communication. For those of you who may have had a different path before the changes to pathways, those paths are still available for you to use, but they are not being upgraded or offered for new people. So we are down, there's 6. I think we used to have 12 that you could choose from. So now it's down to 6. And you will go, if you want to have the system help you to choose, you'll click to choose a path and you'll set your language preference. It'll give you 2 options. Do you want to view all of the path options available, or do you want to take the assessment? My personal recommendation for you as a new member or a person who has not picked a path yet is to do the take the assessment. Before demonstration purposes, I'm going to show you the paths that I just mentioned, and then I'll probably backdoor and go through the assessment. So as you can see, it'll show you here the 6 paths that are available to you. It gives you a little bit about what that path offers, and you can click into it a little bit more to get more details about it. Now, if you don't want to go and pay attention to all 6 things and make up your mind that way, if it's easier, go over to take the assessment. Again, click continue and then start. And as you go, it'll ask you some questions and it'll let you know once you've completed all of the elements, and then it will give you a suggestion. At the end of the suggestion, you are not required to take the suggestion that was offered. You can say, it's giving me dynamic leadership, but my family told me that I need to get a sense of humor, so I really want to do engaging humor instead. Then you can say, thanks, I'm going to select engaging humor. Once you select the path, that is the path that will show up in your Basecamp. So let's talk about Basecamp. Once you start logging in after you select your path, again, you will see this screen on when you log in. And the easiest thing to do is hit the button that says go to Basecamp, and it will take you directly to your Basecamp. As you can see here, I'm enrolled in a couple of different different paths, and I believe this one is the newer one for me, so I'm going to spend a little time here. So once you go into your Basecamp, it'll show you which paths you're on. If you're only on one path, that's the path that'll show up, and you'll just click into it. And then you will see, as my computer slowly loads up the information, that it will show you where you are in the path, and it will show you what other things are coming in that level. So you can do a whole overview of your path, because I believe one of the questions that was asked, well, how many speeches or how many activities are in each one? If you want to get a good look at how many there are and what they are, you'll be able to see that. So for example, in my motivational strategies path, level 1, there's 1, 2, 3, 4 speeches. The icebreaker speech, writing a speech with a purpose, introduction to vocal variety and body language, and then an evaluation and feedback speech. The level completion is going through and selecting what you need there. So looking at this, I know that, okay, I've done my icebreaker speech, check. I've already received credit for that, and the club has already received credit for me completing that assignment. Next, I want to go to my next speech in that. And as you can see, there was another speech that I had already done in that arena. So they don't always have to be done in order. But to keep it simple today, I'm just going to move on to the next one. As we move along, you'll see that when we get into the lesson, there's certain things that you'll see. There will be parts of the lesson to read. There may be some videos in the lesson. There will be some questions for you to answer, as well as resources for your project that you will be delivering a speech on based on the content of that lesson. So if I'm writing a speech with a purpose, I have these resources available to download for myself. For sake of time, I'm not going to show you these at this moment, but feel free to peruse them as you would like. And then we'll go through. It'll give me other information. It'll tell me about the assignment. And so I'll see here that this assignment is for me to make a 5 to 7 speech about anything that I want, but narrow enough to be effective in 5 to 7 minutes time. And then it's going to ask me some more questions to reflect, to kind of gauge where I am now and to see if that changes over time. So it's going to ask me to add some items on what I know, what I wonder about when it comes to this speech topic. It's going to help me do some other things in preparation for this particular speech, which is understanding the organization and structure of a speech. And let me move on a little bit faster here. More information. Then there'll be some questions to answer as we move along. It's going to tell you to write your speech, to plan your speech with the Vice President of Education and get that ready. And then let's see how much further we have to go through this one. So this is more and more lessons. So like I said, you can see different lessons. All lessons aren't, this is a pretty lengthy one. All lessons aren't this long. Again, some of them may have videos attached that you can read through. And then after you give your speech, you need to come back and do your evaluation of your speech. This part will be crucial in making sure that you receive credit for completing that speech and that it goes directly to Toastmasters.org to keep us on chart with our growth and with our DCP points. All right. It looks like that 10 minutes went by really, really fast. And so I am going to go ahead and pause now and stop sharing my screen. And I'm going to ask Joe to go ahead and reset the timer for 8 to 10 minutes. And this is an opportunity for Q&A.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Is there a maximum number of pathways you can do?
You can take all 6 if you want. However, my recommendation is to always start with 1. There is a wealth of knowledge to be had in just getting through 1. And so one of the things that I did not talk about was the fact that all of the paths start with the first level are all about the same. Every path starts with an icebreaker. I think just about every path starts with crafting a speech assigned with whatever method you're leaning toward, and then some of the other pieces. So if you're doing an icebreaker, it really doesn't matter which path you've decided to join in with. You're going to do an icebreaker. That's going to be the very first time, ideally, that we hear from you.
Then I have another question. So how many, it's called presentations slash essays do you present, or is there a requirement? How many you have to prepare in a year, or how does that work?
Great question. Great question, Eric. So because Toastmasters is an at your own pace organization, it's completely up to you how fast or how slow you do that. I think it really goes into you understanding what keeps you motivated and keeps your momentum and keeps you engaged and involved. What I find is that people who are intentional about setting some goals, maybe saying, okay, I'm going to do 1 a month or 1 every 6 weeks, number 1, they stay engaged. Number 2, they get better faster. And number 3, before long, we look up and they've got the letters DTM behind their names like Kent or Tim Thurston.
Gotcha. All right. Thank you.
Catherine, how many levels are in each pathway?
There are 5 levels in each pathway.
And there's
So-
five speeches at each level?
Not necessarily. So each level has a different number of projects because not all of them are huge speeches. Some are and some are not. And so it really depends on which path you pick. But you don't have to go in blindly going, oh, what, let me pick the one that's got. As you go through it, it's a step-by-step process. And so you can grow with it however you need. And again, most of the things you don't have to do in order. So there may be, for example, maybe you're leading a project management meeting at work, but you haven't given your body language speech yet. But over there in level 4, you know that you can get credit if you're running a project. So guess what? I'm going to play around with the things a little bit. Now I won't get the ultimate full credit of all the things, but I can still get credit for that speech. And then when I come back, I can come back and pick it up and it'll trail on through. I hope that makes sense.
So you're saying that you don't have to go through each level in chronological order?
You do not have to go through each one in chronological order, except I think level 5 is level 5. So if you start your level 1 and then you have an opportunity that comes up and you want to be able to get Toastmasters credit for it, you can do that. If it's down the line, so let's say it's in your level 4 and oh gosh, this is happening. So I want to use it and I want to grow through it. I can get credit for it as a speech in that level.
And my last question is, we have goals during this year,
Yes.
and one of them is to achieve something you will at least complete at least one path. Is that correct?
That is, we have and I would have to go back and look at that explicitly, what we said, how many people have to do what. I believe we have one person needing to complete level 4 for our DCP points. For me, that is secondary to you getting what you need as a member of this club. So yes, we have goals that we are aiming for, but I think if everybody in this club is getting exactly what they need, those points will come automatically. So if you say, you know what, I really want to get through 2 levels and I'm going to give a speech every month for the next, and you're preparing and you're going through your path and you're doing those lessons and you're coming in and you're doing them, those things are going to happen anyway.
But it does help if we have a goal, because if we don't have a goal, we'll probably just
Yes.
sit on it for the
Yes,
rest
we
of
have
the
a
year.
goal. We have goals for our success, our club success plan. I don't have it right in front of me right now.
No, I understand, but to answer kind of Eric's question is, you need to set goals if you want to progress, so maybe
Right.
you want to do 5 or 10 speeches in the next 10 months. It would be good, as she said, maybe 1 speech a month, it would be helpful.
Right.
Along those lines, Catherine, what would you say is a reasonable goal for, let's say, new members getting through level 1,
Mm-hmm.
or to complete an entire path? What would you say is a reasonable for the average, not the superhuman like you, but the average person like me to get through a path? And
Says the
level 1 and
DTM to the level 4. Okay, so what I would say is first, jump in while you're hot. A lot of times we get into things and then we cool off and then we don't pick it back up. So my recommendation to any new member is, as soon as you can, select your path, begin to go down your pathway journey and be consistent. So whether that's once a month, once every 3 weeks, once every 6 weeks, whatever it is, set a time for yourself that's reasonable. Because here's the deal. As much as I love Toastmasters, Toastmasters is not the only thing I have going on in my life. And so we have to be realistic about what commitments we can make and how we show up. Because I think that becomes, if I overcommit myself, knowing that I've got 273 other things going on, and I put myself in all these places, and then I pull out every single time I'm not doing myself a service and I'm not doing the club a service. So I think some of that is really personal, that you have to ask yourself, what time commitment am I willing to make? maybe get with a partner in the club or a coach in the club or a mentor in the club and say, hey, hold my feet to the fire. This is what I want to do. Sign me up so that I can, be in on it, putting it on your calendar so that you don't build any other things into your life during that time and make it happen. But a lot of it is going to be self-determination and your own goals and your own reality of what you have going on in your life. As far as getting through an entire path, in all fairness, I have absolutely no idea because I'm still working on that myself. So I've been kind of stuck in a spot which I've committed personally to doing my best to finish up a path this year, because I've been sitting at level 4 for way too long. And so that is my commitment to myself to move forward and to do what I need to do for myself, but also as an example in this club. Joe?
So Joe has a question.
Quick question. What happened if, for instance, if I have a certain speech that would be suitable to different pathways, and I have 2 or 3 different pathways, and this particular one is suitable for all of them, or to at least 2? Would I have to repeat that certain speech, or can I use as a credit for both pathways?
That's a great question, Joe. And I think this is going to be the last question just for the sake of time. That's a great question, Joe. I think part of it is recognizing, right? We're not trying to take any shortcuts. And because it's in a different path, there is going to be a different nuance that you're focusing on when you deliver it for a different path. So a humorous speech that might also be persuasive, you're going to lean more into the humor if you're doing it for the humorous path, but you might lean a little bit more into something else if you're doing it for the persuasive path. With that being said, the short answer is yes, you would have to redo the path. You can get 1 speech, 1 credit, 1 time. But
And-
you can do your speech as many times as you need to. There's some speeches that, like in the everybody's first path, there will be a feedback speech. So that means you give the speech, you're going to get feedback on it, and ideally you bring that speech back, interjecting the feedback that you got from the first time you gave the speech.
But I cannot use the same speech and speak again for the other pathway.
You can, but you can't do the speech 1 time and
Oh,
say,
yeah.
I'm checking it off for 3 paths.
Exactly. That's something that I was curious, because at least I could recorrect
Yes.
myself and try to improve by using.
Absolutely.
Cool. Thank you.
Absolutely. All right. I will yield the lectern back to our distinguished Toastmaster Camp Biggs.
Let's all give Catherine a huge round of applause. What she did is not easy to do. I've tried to do it before. She's